Hello, good evening. Christopher Hitchens' career as a journalist and essayist spans almost 50 years. He's infamous for not pulling his punches. His targets have included Mother Teresa, Henry Kissinger and the Pope. In June this year, he was diagnosed with advanced esophageal cancer, a condition he's described as banal. Christopher Hitchens has given an extraordinarily frank interview to Jeremy Paxman. Some of his most interesting reflections here are about cancer.
Can we start by talking about the cancer? What is the prognosis?
Well, the particular form of malignancy I have is in my esophagus, but it's metastasized, as they love to say, to my lymph nodes. You can practically feel one in my clavicle, on bad days anyway. And I'm afraid to at least a tiny speck in my lungs. And the prognosis for that is that if you lump it all together, and you leave out every other consideration, 5% of us live another 5 years, so that's not ideal. But I have a strong constitution, for example, which has served me quite well, though if I hadn't had such a strong one, I might have led a more healthy life, perhaps.
But in the meantime, in the old cliché, you live day to day.
Oh, yeah. Yes, one does. But actually, who doesn't? There is, however, I think, something specifically terrifying, which I'm trying to oppose in my writing and my appearances about cancer.
Are you terrified by it?
No. I think it's a superstition, one among many. And I think I know where it comes from, actually, if you'd like me to say. I mean, well, when I was a child, we were all very frightened still by polio. It takes an effort to remember that now, but in many countries people still are. Previous generations would have been smallpox, the heart that never gets the right rhythm, bronchitis, TB, all these things. But none of them have the same, I think, horror as cancers have been allowed to acquire. And I think it's probably because of the idea of there being a live thing inside you, a sort of malignant alien that can't outlive you, but that does, in a sense, have a purpose to its life, which is to kill you and then die. It's like an obscene parody of the idea of being pregnant. In fact, I always feel sorrier for women who have cancer than men. For men, the idea of hosting another life of any kind is sort of hard to think about. But for a woman, it must be a grotesque, nasty version of the idea of being a host to another life.
The word most commonly used about cancer is battling cancer, isn't it?
Yes. And I, again, think that's a version of the pathetic fallacy. It's giving a real existence to something that's, in a sense, inanimate, real sense inanimate. It has a sort of life, but not a real. I rather think it's battling me, I have to say. It's much more what it feels like. I mean, I have to sit passively every few weeks and have a huge dose of kill or cure venom put straight into my veins, and then follow that up with other poisons too. Doesn't feel like fighting at all. Possibly resisting, I suppose, but no. You feel as if you're drowning in passivity and being assaulted by something that has a horrible persistence that's working on you while you're asleep.
Do you fear death?
No, I'm not afraid of being dead, that's to say. There's nothing to be afraid of. I won't know I'm dead. In my strong conviction, I won't. And if I find that I'm alive in any way at all, well, that'll be a pleasant surprise, and I quite like surprises. But I strongly take leave to doubt it. I can't be too insouciant. I mean, one can't live without fear. It's a question of what is your attitude towards fear. I'm afraid of a sordid death. I'm afraid that I would die in an ugly or squalid way. I mean, cancer can be very pitiless in that respect.
That's a fear of dying. It's not a fear of death, though.
Quite. So I forget now which you asked.
What do you think?
It's a good distinction.
What do you think?
Of death, no. Of dying, yes, I feel a sense of waste about it because I'm not ready. I feel a sense of betrayal to my family, and I like to think even to some of my friends who would miss me. Undone things, unattained objectives, but as I said before, I hope I'd always have that if I was 100.
Does it make you angry?
No, it makes me sober, objective. I think, well, this is the best known of our disease enemies. I'm one of its many, many, many victims. I'm probably one of the luckier ones in point of being able to have treatment and care. I'd like to prove to other people that it's not the end of everything to be diagnosed with it. In other words, yes, it can be resisted. I think I prefer resistance to battling. I didn't pick this fight, but now I'm in it. I'd like to give it my best shot. And as I say, this means to me is putting myself on the side of those men of medicine and science and reason who are trying to reduce it to something that is understandable, assimilable to reason, and that will be brought under control.
But the likelihood is that it will kill you.
Well, the certainty is that that's what I'll die from. Yeah, some people die with cancer. I might die with it. It will be, unless I have a heart attack, which I could easily have, by the way. I'm much more likely now to have a blood clot than I was before. Or a stroke, perhaps. But I mean, no, it's the proximate cause of my death, and I'm both lucky and unlucky to know it in advance and be able to take its measure.
And there will be people, and they won't say it to your face perhaps, but well, he smoked a lot, he drank a lot.
Yes. Well, that's exactly what's demystifying about it. I mean, there are also people who say it's God's curse on me that I should have it near my throat because that was the organ of blasphemy which I used for so many years. And I thought, well, I've used many other organs to blaspheme as well if it comes to that. No, it is banal in that precise way. If you've led a rather bohemian and rackety life as I have, it's precisely the cancer you'd expect to get. That's a bit of a yawn.
Christopher Hitchens speaking to Jeremy. You can see the full half-hour interview, including more of his reflections on life, death, politics and his robust defence of his decision to attack Mother Teresa on a Newsnight special. That's on BBC Two on Monday at 7:30 p.m.